North Korea, officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, is one of the world's most secretive countries. This secrecy extends to almost every aspect of life within its borders, but it is especially pronounced when it comes to its military capabilities. The Air Force in particular remains shrouded in mystery, leaving analysts and experts to piece together information from limited sources. This secrecy covers much of its military, including its Air Force, officially called the Korean People's Army Air and Anti-Air Force, or KPAAF. The KPAAF is a critical component of North Korea's military strategy, designed to defend the nation and project power within the region. We often hear about North Korea's nuclear weapons and large army, but its Air Force is important too. While the nuclear arsenal grabs headlines, the Air Force plays a vital role in both offensive and defensive operations, providing support to ground forces and serving as a deterrent to potential aggressors. Even though its planes are old, the KPAAF is still a possible danger in the tense Korean peninsula. The fleet consists of a mix of Soviet-era aircraft and more modern Chinese models, many of which are outdated by global standards. However, the sheer number of aircraft and the strategic use of these assets can still pose a significant threat. Figuring out what the KPAAF can and can't do is hard. Analysts rely on satellite imagery, defector testimonies, and occasional glimpses from state media to build a picture of the Air Force's capabilities. This fragmented information makes it challenging to assess the true strength and readiness of the KPAAF. We don't have much information about it. The lack of transparency and the controlled flow of information from North Korea mean that much of what we know is speculative. This uncertainty adds to the enigma surrounding the KPAAF and complicates efforts to develop effective countermeasures. What we do know comes from people who escaped North Korea, pictures taken from space, and the little bit North Korea shows us itself. Defectors provide valuable insights, but their accounts can be outdated or incomplete. Satellite images offer a more current view but are limited in detail. State media, on the other hand, often exaggerates capabilities for propaganda purposes. This makes understanding the KPAAF like a guessing game, made even harder by North Korea's love of bragging. The regime frequently showcases its military might in parades and propaganda videos, but these displays are carefully curated to project strength and hide weaknesses. But by putting together the clues we have, we can start to understand North Korea's Air Force. Analysts use a combination of open-source intelligence, expert analysis, and historical data to piece together a more accurate picture of the KPAAF's capabilities and limitations. We'll look at its history, the planes it has now, the problems it has training pilots and fixing planes, its air defenses, how North Korea uses propaganda to make it look stronger, and how it fits into North Korea's overall military plans. Understanding these aspects is crucial for assessing the true threat posed by the KPAAF and for developing strategies to counter it. Even though we may not know everything about the KPAAF, understanding its strengths, weaknesses, and potential threat is important for keeping the area safe and making smart decisions. The ongoing tensions on the Korean peninsula make it essential to stay informed about all aspects of North Korea's military capabilities. The North Korean Air Force, though it seems stuck in the past, is still a big part of the ongoing Korean situation. Its role in the broader military strategy of North Korea cannot be underestimated, and it remains a key factor in the region's security dynamics. The North Korean Air Force, known as the Korean People's Army Air Force, KPAAF, started after World War II. The end of the war marked a significant shift in global power dynamics, and Korea found itself divided along the 38th parallel, with the North under Soviet influence and the South under American influence. When Korea was divided, both North and South Korea wanted their own air forces to assert their sovereignty and protect their territories. The division created a tense atmosphere, with both sides eager to build up their military capabilities, including their air power. North Korea, led by Kim Il-sung, got a lot of help from the Soviet Union, which provided them with planes, training, and places to keep the planes. The Soviet Union saw North Korea as a strategic ally in the region and was keen to support its military development. With this substantial help, the KPAAF officially began in 1948. This marked the beginning of a new era for North Korea's military, as they now had the means to project power and defend their airspace. The Korean War, from 1950 to 1953, was a real test for the new Air Force. The conflict was intense and brutal, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The KPAAF had to quickly adapt to the realities of modern aerial warfare, At first, the KP-8AF was stronger in the air, thanks to the experience and equipment provided by the Soviet Union. Their pilots were well trained and their aircraft were among the best in the region at the time. Its Soviet planes like the Yak-9 and Lei-9 were better than the planes South Korea and the United Nations had. These aircraft gave the KP-8AF a significant advantage in the early stages of the war. But when the United States Air Force joined the war, things changed quickly. The introduction of advanced American jets, such as the F-86 Sabre, shifted the balance of power in the skies. America's better planes, like the F-86 Sabre, shot down many KP-8AF planes. The superior technology and tactics of the USAF proved to be a formidable challenge for the North Korean pilots. Even so, the KP-8AF kept fighting, getting more planes from the Soviet Union and China. These reinforcements were crucial in allowing North Korea to continue its air operations despite the heavy losses. The Korean War showed how important the KP-8AF was for North Korea's defense, but it also showed that it wasn't strong enough against more modern air forces. The conflict highlighted the need for continuous improvement and adaptation in military strategy and technology. The Korean War changed the KP-8AF a lot. It forced them to rethink their strategies and invest in better training and equipment. The lessons learned during the war had a lasting impact on the development of the North Korean Air Force. It made North Korea rely on Soviet planes and ways of fighting, which it still does today. The influence of Soviet military doctrine can still be seen in the KP-8AF's operations and tactics. The war also showed how important it was to defend against air attacks, so North Korea started focusing on anti-aircraft weapons. This shift in focus was crucial for protecting their airspace from future threats. The lessons of the Korean War still affect the KP-8AF's plans and how it thinks about fighting. The experiences from the war have shaped their approach to air defense and military strategy, ensuring that they remain vigilant and prepared for any future conflicts. The North Korean Air Force is strange, a modern military with really old technology. Most of its planes are old Soviet ones, many from the 1950s and 1960s. Its main fighter planes are MiG-21S and MiG-23S, which most other countries stopped using a long time ago. North Korea has tried to get newer planes, but other countries won't sell them because of rules against it, and North Korea doesn't have much money. They have a few MiG-29S from the 1980s, which are their best fighter planes, but we don't know if they can even fly them well. Besides fighters, the KP-8AF has old bombers, cargo planes and helicopters. They still use the Il-28 bomber from the Cold War and the An-2, a plane with two wings designed in the 1940s. Using such old planes is a big problem for the KP-8AF. It makes it harder to fight and raises questions about whether the planes are safe. These old planes show that North Korea doesn't have much money and can't buy weapons from most other countries. They are trying to improve their air force, but it's very slow, so their planes aren't good enough for modern war. Keeping pilots well trained is hard for any air force, but it's even harder for the KP-8AF. The Korean People's Army Air Force faces unique challenges that make maintaining a high level of readiness particularly difficult. North Korea is poor, and other countries don't trade with it much. This economic isolation severely limits the resources available for military training and operations. The country's limited budget means that the Air Force often has to make do with what it has, which is not always sufficient. One big problem is that the pilots don't get to fly enough. Regular flight hours are crucial for maintaining and improving a pilot's skills, but the KP-8AF struggles to provide these due to several constraints. Fuel is expensive and so is flying planes, so they don't have many training hours. The high cost of aviation fuel and the maintenance required for aircraft mean that the KP-8AF has to limit the number of training flights. This lack of flight time can have serious implications for pilot proficiency. Reports say North Korean pilots fly much less than pilots in other countries. In comparison, pilots from more affluent nations often log hundreds of flight hours annually, honing their skills and staying sharp. The disparity in flight hours puts North Korean pilots at a significant disadvantage. This lack of practice can make pilots less skilled and ready for combat. Without regular flight experience, pilots may struggle with advanced maneuvers and real-world combat scenarios, which require quick thinking and precise execution. The KP-8AF's old planes are another problem. Many of the aircraft in the North Korean fleet are outdated models, some dating back to the Soviet era. These older planes are not only less capable but also more prone to mechanical issues. Fixing and flying these old planes requires special skills and parts, which are hard to get because of the rules against trading with North Korea. The international sanctions make it difficult to obtain the necessary parts and expertise to keep these aging aircraft operational. Because of these problems, the KPAAF uses flight simulators and practices on the ground a lot. While simulators can be useful for certain types of training, they cannot fully replicate the experience of flying a real aircraft. These are helpful, but they're not the same as flying a real plane. Ground training and simulators can only go so far in preparing pilots for the complexities and unpredictability of actual flight. KPAAF training focuses on discipline, loyalty to the government, and being able to work with very little. The emphasis on ideological training and resourcefulness is a reflection of the broader challenges faced by the North Korean military. But not flying enough is still a big worry, and it might make it hard for the KPAAF to do complicated things in the air. The lack of adequate flight training could severely limit the effectiveness of the KPAAF in any potential conflict. Old planes, little flight time, and a weak economy make training KPAAF pilots very difficult. These factors combine to create a challenging environment for maintaining a capable and ready Air Force. North Korean pilots are known for their discipline and loyalty, but their lack of real flying experience might make it hard for them to fight against more advanced air forces. Despite their dedication, the limitations they face could be a significant hindrance in any aerial combat situation.